Good morning and welcome, everybody. This is the Telarus Tuesday call for February 4th, 2020. Today is actually the midpoint of winter in the Northern Hemisphere, or summer if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. And in completely unrelated news, today is the 16th anniversary of the founding of Facebook. I think Facebook is like a refrigerator where people are bored, they just keep opening and closing it every few minutes to see if there's anything good in it. What's really weird is that before Facebook, all the crazy stuff in there just stayed in people's heads. That's frightening. Anyway, happy 16th to Facebook, and I am Doug Miller, the voice of Telarus, still known to members of my third grade class as High Life, and I had absolutely no idea at the time what they were talking about. Today's call features Telarus co-founder and Chief Product Officer Patrick Oborn. Patrick's here with another in our special Telarus series about our suppliers, who they are, what they offer, and how to determine the correct solutions for your clients, among the many available options. Patrick's focus today will be on providers of connectivity and SD-WAN, with valuable information on how to spec out a complex SD-WAN solution. Patrick Oborn's presentation is coming up in just moments. If you happen to miss our last Telarus Tuesday call, Patrick joined us for that one as well, along with Kobe Phillips, one of our Telarus VPs of Business Development. Kobe and Patrick presented a frank and open deep dive into the Telarus Cloud and Digital Edge portfolio of providers. It's part of our multi-week series of presentations helping you understand the breadth of the Telarus supplier offerings and when and how to enlist their help in crafting the ideal solution for your client's specific needs. Also, during last week's call, we introduced you to one of our most specialized and perhaps most universally applicable supplier offerings. It's called Defendry, Active Shooter Defense. Defendry is artificial intelligence software technology that is designed to detect, deter, and report potential threats. And this includes guns, masks, intruders, all of it in just seconds. Their services include automatic visual threat detection, automatic structure lockdown, immediate human verification of the threat, emergency notifications, and all of this providing a tactical advantage to first responders and expedited incident resolution. It really is serious technology. The Tuesday call last week had the introduction. Then we had a Wednesday training and demonstration call, which was exceptionally well attended, and the response to that was phenomenal. Those are must-see recordings. You want to check those out. They're available in your Telarus partner back office. You will be impressed by what you saw from Defendry. Today, we invite you to please log into the video link and live chat platform where you'll see today's valuable information and be able to submit questions and comments directly to Patrick for review during our Q&A session at the call's conclusion. Well, 2 months ago, Telarus COO Richard Murray joined our call, and he announced the 2020 President's Club event, which is going to be held next March in St. Lucia. It's a country in the Caribbean. It's north of Venezuela. I think it's between Martinique and St. Vincent. And unlike the elusive results of the Iowa caucus yesterday, you knew I was going to sneak it in, Telarus knows exactly who is in the running for the President's Club event, and our suppliers hope to make it easy for you to qualify for this year's award. You can either sell a combined $100K in Telarus MRR, or sell a specified amount with one of the individual sponsoring suppliers shown here on your screen. As you can see from the list, there are many terrific and easy ways to qualify. You're not going to want to miss the opportunity to join Telarus. March 7th through the 10th are the dates in 2021. That's in St. Lucia for the 2020 President's Club. This week, if you happen to be in Sterling, Virginia, they're about 30 miles northwest of D.C., this Thursday, February 6th, plan to join Telarus between 2 and 5 p.m. for a special Tech Talk event at the Dulles Town Center. This is going to feature an Iron Chef competition. It's going to be an educational and a delicious experience with RapidScale, Cox, Sky Data Vault, and Five9. Great supplier information and 90 competitive minutes in the kitchen, whipping up the best meal of your life. Tech Talk and the Iron Chef. The fun happens this Thursday in Sterling, Virginia. And Telarus is wasting no time bringing our spectacular and transformative Telarus Innovation Conferences to partners around the country. Our first 3 conferences for 2020 are now set. If you're in the area, please plan to join us for a day of training, networking, and activities that will transform your business. And we'll be giving away prizes at each event valued at more than $5,000. Next Tuesday, February 11th, we'll be in Orange County at the historic Nixon Library in Yorba Linda. And then the Telarus Innovation Conference travels to Houston on Thursday, February 20th at the Astorian. Then we finish up in Columbus, Ohio on Thursday, February 27th. These will be immersive technology training experiences featuring outstanding training and content from our Telarus team and from many industry experts. Join us and take advantage of these tremendous opportunities to enhance your expertise and to build your business at the Telarus Innovation Conferences. Our full schedule of events with all of our upcoming opportunities is available for your perusal, where you can register and RSVP. It's at Telarus.com events. Little recognition today. I have the honor today of recognizing 2 of our Telarus partners who've put up some of the top wins of this past week. In our second spot, we recognize Ryan Hunt. He's the principal at Connect4 Communications, a Telarus Gold partner here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Ryan and the Connect4 team closed a very impressive sale of local PRI services from Allstream to a client in the medical services field. Allstream provides everything your clients need. It's all in one place. They are North America's all-business provider of voice and collaboration, connectivity, and managed IT. Allstream offers flexibility, simplicity, and the assurance that, hey, everything's going to work, always. Ryan Hunt and Connect4 Communications recently topped this same Telarus leaderboard not that long ago. He's back again this week thanks to this outstanding sale. Ryan's in his 3rd year as a Telarus partner, but his long-term experience in our industry is on display with this tremendous deal. And according to rumor, Connect4 is big, bad, and scary. Ryan, it was Randy that made me say that. Congratulations, Ryan Hunt and Connect4 Communications on this tremendous Allstream win. Taking our number 1 spot on this week's top sales leaderboard, we congratulate Mark White, Michael White, Jason Hulsweed, and all of the team at Virtual Telecom, also a Telarus Gold partner out of Louisville, Kentucky. Virtual Telecom posted a tremendous sale of SD-WAN and managed services from Masergy to a client in the auto accessories industry. Masergy knows digital transformation is easier said than done, but when you partner with Masergy, you'll have the confidence needed to realize your client's digital ambitions. Virtual Telecom supplies forward-thinking solutions and infrastructure to companies seeking both value and scalability. They've been connecting clients to the cloud since 2004. Congratulations, Virtual Telecom, on this exceptional Masergy sale. It is our top Telarus sale of the week. Thanks to all of our partners for continuing to trust Telarus with your business. Now let's take a look at this week's training calendar. Several opportunities being featured on the call as we help you build your business with valuable information. First up, today, beginning at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, the Business Sales Resource Organization from Sprint will present live training, and in just 30 minutes, Sprint will answer the most commonly asked questions about their partner program tools, processes, and systems. It's a great way to get started with Sprint, but also an important update and refresher for more experienced partners as well. The Sprint 30-minute productivity marketplace training takes place today at 2:30 Eastern. And then tomorrow, Wednesday, beginning at noon Eastern, plan to join RapidScale for another in their very popular Anatomy of a Deal session in their Cloud Empower webinar series. The Rapid Scale team will show you the strategies they used alongside partners just like you to help drive opportunities to close. Tomorrow's case study is a healthcare deal, one using holistic ROI calculations, a multi-pronged approach to HIPAA compliance, and the ability to meet the needs of a one-person IT shop. It's Rapid Scale's Anatomy of a Deal training happens tomorrow at noon Eastern. Then on Thursday, February 6th, 1 p.m. Eastern, Spectrum Business conducts their monthly partner webinar training featuring the latest on Spectrum news, processes, policies, training, and updates. Partners will come away with a terrific understanding of Spectrum Business's internet, phone, and TV products, in addition to Spectrum's fiber internet, cloud backup, and security suite as well. Spectrum Business Partner Webinar, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. And right afterward at 2 p.m. Thursday, Claro Enterprise Solutions will conduct their We Evolve Together channel partner webinar, teaching partners how to position IoT in 2020. Claro has 2 decades of experience across 25 countries, continually developing new approaches to enterprise solutions. IoT is about networks of connected, intelligent devices that continually collect, share, and analyze data. This special training will teach you about IoT, target market customers, and the questions to ask, which uncover needs for a solution. Claro IoT training happens Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. The details and registration links for these and for many other live and recorded learning opportunities are all in your Telarus partner back office at agent.telarus.com. So many valuable spiffs being made available to Telarus partners in the new year as well. Here's a few of the best. First up, earn more the easy way with a winter spiff bonus from Viasat. Now through March 31st, a new subscriber sale from a first-time seller of Viasat services gets a 3x MRC spiff on that first deal. For new subscriber sales from partners who've previously sold Viasat, there's a 2x MRC spiff waiting for you. It's the easy way to earn more when you sell Viasat. And next, from Call Tower, your chance to earn residuals plus 3x commissions on new sales to new logo clients of $3,000 MRC on a minimum 36-month term. Call Tower believes partners are part of their family, and that's the secret to their success is in treating partners well, providing great support, and in making the relationship financially rewarding. And this will do exactly that. Residuals plus 3x commissions is rewarding indeed from Call Tower. And finally, Jive by LogMeIn hopes you'll sell more faster with their 5x bonus. Just register a new opportunity in their partner exchange tool, work the deal with your LogMeIn AE, close it on a 36-month term, and then claim your 5x bonus while you sit back and listen to the sound of that new contract ink drying. This terrific Jive by LogMeIn spiff runs throughout 2020. Plenty of time to get your share of this fantastic 5x bonus. These 3 and many more fantastic deals from our suppliers can all be found at promo.telarus.com. Well, as mentioned earlier, today's call features Telarus co-founder and Chief Product Officer Patrick Oborn. He joined us last week along with Kobe Phillips for a deep dive into the Telarus Cloud and Digital Edge supplier portfolio. And in addition to the available recording of that session, Patrick's also put that same information into a blog post, which partners can use to educate themselves on our suppliers, as well as to develop compelling sales discussions to conduct with your clients. You really should check out the blog. It's at telarus.com/resources, authored by the man himself. Today is part 3 of our series. Patrick's assembled a masterclass in global network connectivity and SD-WAN. Patrick, welcome back to the Telarus Tuesday call.
Thanks so much, Doug. It's a pleasure to be here. Can you hear me okay?
You sound great.
All right, fantastic. Well, Doug, thanks for taking us through all the trainings and spiffs and everything else in the Telarus world. Very exciting time to be an agent. Things in the world are changing fast, and that's really the point of today's call. I'm not pretending that I'm going to come and teach you guys about network. What I'm going to do is I'm going to more importantly focus on the things that have changed, the things that are new, the things that, hey, if you weren't paying attention, maybe you missed it. And you might even call it, Doug, I'm surprised you missed the opportunity to cash in on this one, but it could be the State of the Union for global network and SD-WAN.
Didn't want to get too political today, but thanks. Good idea.
But that's actually what this call is. It is the State of the Union. Telarus has always been a connectivity shop. We started out in connectivity, and of course we've graduated up market and hired industry-leading experts in many of the leading as a service fields. But global network and SD-WAN, it really still is the key. And we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a second. But first, I want to start out today by talking about the things that have changed. And so let's go to the slide real fast that we can see the new kids on the block. And that's without any background music or boy band dancing, but the new kids on the block. We have quite a few that we've added since we got together for this call just last year in 2019. The folks that we signed in 2019, and I apologize if I don't read your name, if you're a supplier listening on this call and I don't read your name today, I'm gonna point out a couple specific ones. Number one, I'm gonna point out the new ones. We're gonna start out with Command Link. Command Link is a company owned by Jason Ness. Many of you will remember him back from the Telness days. It's the same Jason Ness, Mason Miles. They've got a fantastic team over at Command Link, and they're really doing complex, interconnected, fully managed, engineered wide area networks for multi-site opportunities. So Command Link, very, very good. We've also added First Communications, again, one of the biggest providers that we haven't had for quite some time. We're glad that we can have them on the roster now. We also have Network Solutions Group. We're excited to have them. We have Unite. We have C-Spire, which is a great not only network, but network and hosted voice company. We're glad to have them there. We have Skywire Communications. Skywire offers fiber in and around all of the New York boroughs, Manhattan, Long Island, Brooklyn, and everywhere around New York City. With the growth of all of our partners in the Northeast, it was, again, suggested, like many of our providers are, that, hey, Telarus, why don't you add these guys? They're making great traction in my backyard. We love hearing those suggestions. Having the providers you need is really our job here at Telarus to make sure you have those. Next, we have Sonic and Pilot Fiber. Many of you have heard of them. BCN, really a big provider. We're glad to have them. They were just on LinkedIn just a couple days ago at a big event that we were hosting for our partners in Texas. We also have All West Communications, and then Versa. Yeah, you're probably thinking Versa, but aren't they the back-end provider of many of the SD-WAN providers? Yes, but Versa has recently launched their direct retail program where you can actually have your customers sign up for Versa itself and get billed by Versa. We'll talk more about SD-WAN here in a second. And then in my international group down here, we have Claro Enterprise Solutions. Claro is a big company in Latin and South America, and they've also acquired a ton of assets in Eastern Europe. They're huge in IoT and huge in international networking. We also have China Mobile, and China Mobile does have terrestrial lines. Don't think that they're just a wireless company. That's a big misconception about China Mobile. We also have Open Systems, and Open Systems has been a big one for us. We're already seeing huge traction in Europe with Open Systems, again, very focused on international SD-WAN. And rounding out the new kids on the block is IX Reach. IX Reach, very, very good company. So we're very proud of Paula McKinnon and our group of supplier managers that do their job day to day, talking to partners, talking to people in our field sales program about the providers that you need to be able to provide the network, which is the foundation. So let's talk about the network being the foundation. We live in an ever-increasing connected world. IoT devices is, again, exploding the need for bandwidth and cloud computing on the edge. So it's really funny that we're going to talk a little bit today about the network, but the network and pushing the computing power closer to the edge of the network is really where things are going. Those two areas are going to combine. So we're going to talk a little bit about network itself, and we're going to talk a little bit about cloud connectivity. Because as everything else goes to the cloud, as our applications sit on top of what I call the pyramid of cloud transformation, think of it as a pyramid with the network being the ground layer. The network is the foundation for everything that we do, everything that we access in the cloud has to get there through the internet. However, there are certain applications that sit on top of that pyramid that are very sensitive to to quality of the network. That's why we have the SD-WAN layer in the middle. I always tell agents, I tell customers, I say, look, you need to not just focus on, killing the MPLS and saving some money on network. You're going to spend about the same on network because you have to include the cost of SD-WAN. Buying a really nice network, a fast internet connection without SD-WAN is basically your equivalent of buying a Cadillac Escalade without any shocks. It's going to be a really, really awesome car, but it's going to be a rough ride. Every bump in the highway, you're going to feel it. Your kids are going to complain. They're going to complain they're getting car sick. They're going to spill their ice cream on their shirts when you go over a tiny little bump and it bumps and then their ice cream cone falls off. It's a bad experience. It's a bad look. SD-WAN is a must in today's day and age of cloud. It's a must. So we're going to talk a little bit about SD-WAN here in a second. And then on top of the pyramid sit your applications. Again, those are the things that are super, super sensitive to quality. But those are the things that make the internet magic. Applications such as UCaaS, CCaaS, and every other app that's out there are just, it's magic. It's what's allowing clouds to talk to clouds. It's what's allowing businesses to get real-time feedback on their customer behavior. It's a way that people are using real-time feedback to address their advertising spend. Companies are making big, big dollars because their applications are so smart. But again, it all hinges on those bottom two layers of that pyramid, specifically the network and the SD-WAN. And then you have a little tiny sheet of saran wrap that wraps around that pyramid to make sure that things that are inside that pyramid should be there and things that are not inside that pyramid should not be there. And that's your security layer. And then inside the pyramid where the Pharaoh's tomb sits, that's the treasure. That's your data. And that's at the heart of everything. So we're going to go ahead and start with the bottom layer network and work our way up. We're going to talk a little bit about the different principal components of internet access. All of you guys on this call presumably know this. Of course, that's cable, DSL, which is still out there, best effort fiber, which is really the one that's probably growing the fastest, where we're putting fiber up to a gig, two gigs, and making it best effort, meaning it's asymmetrical. It's faster down than it is up. 4G and now 5G is really starting to hit on the scene. I don't know if you guys have seen, on LinkedIn, several people have actually posted speed tests of their iPhones on new 5G SIM cards, on new 5G antennas in select cities. And it's pretty dang cool, man. You're seeing speeds of up to 700 to 900 meg on a cell phone. It's really impressive. And 5G is gonna change the way that we gather information at the edge of the network. Of course, we have satellite, we have fixed microwave, and we have dedicated fiber, which again, you're the only one on that strand, and that bandwidth that's allocated to you is years and years only. We're also going to talk about ancillary components to a lot of these things. Auto failover, which a lot of our internet providers are offering just as a standard add-on charge. We've got Wi-Fi hotspots that they're also offering as a standard add-on charge, and also Cloud Connect, actually a special flavor of connectivity that actually takes you directly to the cloud. But first, let's talk about the evolution of access, specifically cable. Cable has come on the scenes. Both cable and best effort fiber are really your two main methods to getting to the cloud at a very cheap rate. But again, remember that this is oversubscribed. So cable started a long time ago. All of the bandwidth was dedicated to the TV signal, all analog. And over time, we've been going through increasing the technology on both edges of the cable, and also by just the innovation of turning television signals into IP television as a digital stream has freed up an enormous amount of bandwidth that we've been reconquering and dedicating to broadband and a whole lot of other applications. Just real fast, we're going to go over the evolution back in the day. T1s, we could do a couple of things on our T1s. On our next slide, you'll see that T1s were great back in the day. You could have a really solid, really quality connection, but again, 1.5 meg, not a lot. And then we started bundling T1s, and now we're in what we call the gig life. There are not gig circuits, but best effort 1 gigabit download speeds just pretty much everywhere in metro America, and now even getting out towards the suburbs. Getting a gig. I have a gig at my house. It's awesome. My kids use every bit of that gig that we pay for, and it's just not uncommon to see people, especially businesses, with video conferences running full time, with people listening to Pandora and doing all kinds of crazy things that's just bandwidth intense. Just reminds me of college when the first gigabyte hard disk came out, and they also had 100 megs of RAM, and I'm thinking, man, 100 megs of RAM, how are we ever going to use all that? And the rule of thumb was, if your computer has resources, Microsoft will find a way to fill them up. And it's just the same way. As the internet and bandwidth available to us expands, the applications that we're running on it is more than enough to fill it up. The cool thing about this is it somewhat follows Moore's law. On the next slide, you'll see just, and this is not industry published data. This is actually data that I pulled out of GeoQuote when I just looked over the years at the actual price per meg. And the price per meg continues to come down, which is a good thing. It means that we can get more and more bandwidth for a cheaper and cheaper price. But on the next slide, you'll see that just because we can get lots of throughput for less dollars, it doesn't mean that there's no weaknesses built into the system. In fact, quality just seems to go down as the price goes down. It's like they're directly proportional to each other. As the price goes down, we start losing packets. We start having latency, things that affect video and voice. The two most important things that we run in the cloud for most people, those collaboration tools are everything. And that's why you go and get a gig circuit. So you can email faster or attach big files. You do that so that you can have real-time video conference calls with your customers, your teammates that are working remote. All of the things that, all the magic that collaboration unleashes gets lost with latency and packet loss. And quite frankly, I think one of the major inhibitors for a more rapid adoption of UCaaS, unified communications, has been really the crappy quality of the network. To get to a point where we can transmit all the packets in a way that is stable, it was back in the day, really before SD-WAN took off. It was a he said, she said. It was, the UC system is having trouble, and the UC provider would say, no, your network provider is having issues. And frankly, that's why Telarus went out and bought VX Suite, so we could monitor the network and really put ourselves in the middle as the referee of this whole finger pointing exercise. Well, the thing that came to the rescue was SD-WAN. So you can see on the next slide, if you're a visual learner like I am, you can actually see the opportunity to clean up a lot of packet loss and latency. When you add SD-WAN to the mix, just with an SD-WAN and a 4G backup, you can see how much SD-WAN cleans up the performance of a coax circuit. Almost any coax circuit can be professional grade. It can be commercial grade with an SD-WAN box. And if you don't have a secondary line coming into that SD-WAN box, that's not ideal, but it's still okay. SD-WAN can still fix a single link WAN application. So if you have a coax and your customer says, hey, I don't have any backup or any alternative method of communicating with the internet, should I get SD-WAN since I just have a simple one-off cable circuit? The answer is always yes. The SD-WAN box can figure out if a packet doesn't arrive and just retransmit it. That retransmission of the packets is called error correction coding, and error correction coding can reconstruct the signal on the other side to to 99% of what you're sending out. So that will really clean up your voice and video calls. So if your customer, again, ever contacts you and says, hey, I'm having quality issues, your immediate response should almost always be, let's try SD-WAN. SD-WAN's going to clean that up. Again, you're putting shock absorbers on their Cadillac Escalade. Speaking of cable providers, this is the part of the program where we actually start talking about where you can get different types of cable providers, different flavors. Of course, we work directly with all the big guys, Comcast, Spectrum, Cox, Altice, and then we've got RCN and WOW Business in the mix. Again, those are all major cable providers, and we offer, I think we sign up 3,000 cable circuits a month. We have a dedicated team at Telarus. We just crank through the cable orders because, again, cable is it's cheap, it's fast, and it's critical for all of your customers' business needs. We also have some uh, uh, cable companies that we offer through resellers. There's Insight, Mediacom, and Cable One. We do not have direct agreements with those companies. We don't think we need to. We don't see them pop up all that often. And over on the right, you can see the aggregators that we can work through to get access to those. Again, Command Link being one of the new guys in that block. You'll, of course, recognize a lot of the same ones. OneStream, Mettel, Granite, Airspring. Again, I'm not going to read them all, but they're amazing. Granite and Nitel do a ton of business. And then you also have Telesystem. They'll not only aggregate your cable, but they'll also put firewall protection at the edge for free. So they're a very, very cool option, again, especially in multi-site configuration. But when you're talking about cable, don't sleep on the add-ons. You got to make sure that you're not just talking about bandwidth, because a lot of these providers have some extremely innovative products that go with it, especially as we talk about, speeds of over 1 gig. You've got Wi-Fi applications, especially a lot of these businesses are buying cable or best effort internet so they can provide guest Wi-Fi for their customers. That guest Wi-Fi is just a standard add-on, $30, $40 a month to a Comcast or Cox bill, and you're in business. They also have cloud applications. A lot of these people will throw in very, very discounted email and other Office 365 products that your customers may be in need of. You've also got their SD-WAN that they've all come out with. Comcast, especially writing on the Versa, their SD-WAN has been rock solid as of late, and the customer can control their whole SD-WAN environment right from their iPhone. And so it's really, really cool. They've got edge security. Again, there's firewall options where you can just add it to the bill. And then you've got multi-carrier aggregation, and that's a critical one. That's one that used to be really, really hard because the cables wouldn't play nice with each other. They would offer you all of their own stuff, but then not offer to resell stuff. But they would offer to resell stuff to their enterprise direct teams. And this is where the channel and their internal teams got into a lot of conflict. They were doing things we couldn't do. A lot of these bigger logos wanted Comcast, but they also wanted a bunch of other stuff. And if they called Comcast Direct, Comcast would say, yeah, we got that for you. But they would, contact us here in the channel, and we would say, oh, sorry, we can't aggregate that for you. Times are changing. Your feedback, our feedback is being heard by these big cable companies, and they're opening up cable aggregation. All of them already have fiber aggregation. So important to note, Spectrum was our top producing cable provider last year, but it wasn't because we sold more Spectrum coax than we did Comcast. In fact, Comcast blew Spectrum out of the water on coax, but Spectrum made up that gap by doing pretty large fiber aggregation projects for us. As long as they have 2 or 3 indigenous fiber connections in the pot, they can go out and they can resell AT&T, Verizon, CenturyLink, and all of the usual suspects. And a lot of people don't know that. So these cable providers, they're not just coax providers. They can actually do a lot of things, and they've again proven themselves to be very technologically advanced and moving outside of their swim lane as opposed to just offering coax. Now, talking about best effort fiber providers, when I talk to customers on behalf of partners, one of the things I typically recommend to people is that they go dual. They go coax and they go best effort fiber. They're both kind of around the same price, but you'll find that with best effort fiber, you get a little bit more bandwidth and bang for your buck than you do pure coax. The other cool thing too is that fiber access is, even best effort fiber, has a little less degradation. It's got a little less packet loss. It's a little faster, so the delay is a little better. Again, with SD-WAN, no matter whether it's coax or best effort fiber, it gets cleaned up. But I've seen Fiber Plus from CenturyLink and AT&T UVerse circuits, Verizon Fios. Like, you can get some really fast speeds for some cheap dollars, like a couple $100 for a gig. It's pretty insane. But the people we have in the best effort fiber category, again, like I mentioned, CenturyLink, Fiber Plus, AT&T's, UVerse, Verizon Fios, Cox. We ordered some Cox circuits for some customers just down in Phoenix recently, and they installed honestly faster than the Lex did. So a lot of times these guys are just they're on top of their game. And you have RCN and Consolidated. Some of the times RCN and Consolidated are some of the people that are in this mix that don't get talked about a lot. Both of them are very large companies, and they've been around for a very long time. It's just that they're newer to the channel, and so a lot of people don't know who they are. But RCN and Consolidated, also big players in the best effort fiber market. Now, dedicated fiber providers, There are a ton of them. This is an area that Telarus has always excelled in. I can't go over all of them, but what I can tell you is if you want to know if there's a dedicated fiber provider in your area or around your customer, use the Telarus tools. We have a fiber tool that's attached to your Telarus partner app. We also have a fiber tool that's in your agent back office that's attached to GeoQuote. All you need to do is go in there and say draw maps and draw lit buildings. Lit buildings are the most important thing because those represent basically existing customers in the carrier's footprint. Those are places where the fiber's already been spliced and their own indigenous networking gear has already been established. If your customer is in a building that is already lit, and assuming there are open ports still left on the carrier's equipment, that can be a very fast install at a very cheap rate. So really your job as a consultant is to kind of put the puzzle pieces together to find out where your customers match up against existing fiber assets. If you don't see any lit buildings, that's really where you want to digress back to fiber routes, revert to fiber routes, because they can at least show you who's in the area and who might build into that building for a cheap fee, assuming that they're close. Fiber providers, in my mind, are less about internet and more about actual construction, actual laying pipe in the ground, the guys in the hard hats. I mean, those companies are real construction companies because they're nonstop calculating ROI of what's it going to cost to deliver fiber to this customer and how long is it going to take us to make our money back once that customer turns on, or how many customers do we need in that building in order for us to make it worth our while. Every single one of these providers you see on the screen have outstanding channel managers that can get in and help you calculate those costs. Again, that's why those prices aren't in GeoQuote, because construction pricing and everything else, it's nuanced. It requires a site survey. There's a lot of things that go into that. But your Telarus partner support managers and cable support managers are here to step you through that. Now let's talk about real fast about our dedicated fiber providers that are actually international in nature. So as you guys know, Telarus has been expanding beyond the borders of the United States. Just a couple of non-fiber providers that or non-US fiber providers we have in here is, of course, China Telecom, big in China. NTT, again, big in Japan and in the Pacific Rim. Claro, that I just mentioned here, again, huge in Latin America, the United States, Canada, as well as Europe. You have Zayo, which is just, it's a global behemoth. I mean, those guys have grown by acquisition and own a lot of fiber miles. You have Shaw and Rogers getting into the mix, both two Canadian companies that we are just about to sign with to get our Canadian partners going up in Western and Eastern Canada. You have GTT, which again is an amalgamation of lots of foreign providers. They've got tremendous footprint all over the globe, but in our footprint, they do really well in the Middle East. You also have Telia Carrier. Telia Carrier is like one of the biggest phone companies you guys have probably never heard of. Like, I would recommend you go to teliacarrier.com and see all the footprint they have, especially in Europe. I mean, they're all over the place in Europe and the United States. I mean, they have a huge footprint. They're actually in our office just last week. I was just talking to their channel manager, and tremendous footprint there. And then Telstra. Telstra has a tremendous worldwide footprint, especially in the Pacific Rim. They're one of the few providers we have that can actually even get us into China, behind the Great Firewall of China, because they actually own a 50% owned Chinese subsidiary that works with Telstra. So they can get us a lot of places. In fact, when Telstra comes to the TICs and they have their table, they almost always say, think China, think Telstra. And so that's pretty much their pitch there. We also have some non-US fiber aggregators. So the ones I just talked about, they own glass at the bottom of the ocean. They own their own equipment. We also have aggregators that do really well. The ones that I want to point out here are Brodent. Brodent is headquartered in Barcelona, Spain, and our partners in Europe are finding them a very, very good resource to aggregate bandwidth across multiple providers in Europe and across the globe. We also have a brand new one we just signed. Their name is Global Internet. And I met these guys at the Channel Partner Show in London. And they were there and they had these bright orange shoes. And that was kind of their stick. I'm like, what's up with the bright orange shoes? I'm like, well, we're Global Internet and we're headquartered in Amsterdam. I'm like, well, it makes sense. The orange, I love it. And they're doing also a very, very good job. In fact, we just did an event with them in London 3 days ago. and Global Internet's doing some really, really cool things. Again, they're based in Amsterdam. We also have ITEL. ITEL is our Canadian version of our bandwidth aggregation partners. We have Xperio, which again, all over the globe. Victor Hugh, the channel chief, headquartered in Orlando, Florida, very good guy, very good company, and they also offer many, many flavors of SD-WAN with the network. So they're very good at kind of blending those both together for you, one throat to choke. And then we have Convergia, or Convergia, like I like to call them, with Jose, their channel chief. They have tremendous footprint. They're headquartered in Montreal, Canada, and they have tremendous footprint both in South America. They're huge in Brazil, and they're everywhere else. We also have U.S. international fiber aggregators, the typical ones you guys already know: Masergy, Global Gig, Nitel, Hypercore, Sprint, and then the LEX, which people don't commonly think of as international fiber aggregators, and CenturyLink, AT&T, and Verizon. So again, if you want to know who's where, the people here at Telarus, the sales engineers, are always here to answer your questions. But we also recently released a tool to help answer some of those questions for you. It's called the International Internet Access Matrix. In fact, this matrix contains both internet and voice products, but all you need to do is use that left-hand column to literally just click on the countries that your customer has locations in, and the interactive matrix will actually delete providers that fall outside of your search parameters in real time. It's really, really cool. Again, it's one of the 5 matrices that are available both on your phone and in your Telarus on your Telarus app on your phone, and the back office. On the new back office, just click on quotes. It'll give you all the quoting tools there available to you. It'll give you GeoQuote, but it'll also give you direct links to the 5 matrices. So some cool resources there that you need to know about. Now, like I said at the top of the call, connectivity isn't just about connecting to the internet to get to the cloud. It's about actually connecting to the cloud itself. So if you listened on last week's call, we talked a little bit about Cloud Connectivity 101, how you actually get to AWS, how do you get to Azure, how do you get to the Google Cloud, IBM, Alibaba Cloud, and that is what we call the cloud connectivity providers. So they're pretty much like hubs. Like in New York City, you don't really go to get on the train. You actually go to Grand Central Station first. From Grand Central Station, you have many, many options to get to where you're going in New York. So the Grand Central Station of the internet pretty much is happening at Equinix and by virtue of connectivity through Megaport. A lot of cloud connectivity goes through those resources. So on the next slide, you'll see we actually talked about, Kobe Phillips and I, about providers that have direct access to what we call these on-ramps to the public cloud. If you can get yourself to one of these data centers, you can then grab basically a free, not free, but a cross connect or a direct connect into these clouds. But in the case that you don't do that, you just want to connect directly from your location through a broadband provider and grab a port on Amazon Web Services, there are ways to do that. It's not as elegant as the way that Kobe and I talked about, but there again are providers out there that will do that. And that's what we called back in the day the cloud connectivity providers. The cloud connectivity providers that we have are split into a couple groups. Number one, we start out with the ones that go to AWS. Again, there's 2 parts to this connectivity. Number one, you need the WAN connectivity, and number 2, you need to buy the port at AWS to connect to their cloud internally. So again, it's 2 parts of the cost. The front end of the cost are WAN providers, and we have Altice, CenturyLink, AT&T. It goes all the way down to Zayo. There's lots of them you can see on the slide. Next, very similar to AWS, you can connect your customers directly to the Microsoft cloud and connect them to Azure through what Microsoft calls express routes. So express route providers, there's a little fewer of them than there are for AWS, but there are still plenty to choose from Ariaka, AT&T, CenturyLink, China Telecom even, NTT, Telia, Sprint, Zayo, there's lots. So again, connecting directly to the cloud is an option. Nowadays, you probably don't want to go via express route or direct connectivity. You want to actually connect the customer directly to one of those data centers, which of course are on-ramps to the cloud and the global cloud exchange fabric. Next, we're going to get into some wireless internet. You know, we love us some wireless. We've got some great 4G LTE players. We've got Sierra Wireless that, again, can go dual SIM and a bunch of other fun stuff. BroadSky, which is a great aggregator, Telesystem, which many people don't think of again, and Nitel, which a lot of people don't think of in the 4G world. We also have Core that's part of this, and this is another new provider that we just added. So apologies to Chris Whitaker for not having Core, but they're definitely in this mix. Again, those guys are taking the existing 4G network, grabbing a internet connection off of that network, and providing it to your customer to use. Now, of course, with 4G, there's always the notion of usage, throttling, everything else. This is not an unlimited resource. It is, typically you have anything from 30 gig to 100 gig plans, and everywhere in between. There's pooling. A lot of these providers do a really good job of trying to pool the data so that your customer doesn't get zinged if one of his locations fails over and starts using the service and consuming a lot of bandwidth. Next, we have microwave providers, and when I say microwave, I'm talking about you put an antenna on your customer's building, and this is communicating directly line of sight to another broadcast antenna. And those include Sky River, Mettel, TPX, which a lot of people don't think of in the microwave business, Windstream, which a lot of people also don't think of in the microwave business, Rise Broadband, which is a pure play WISP, and Utah Broadband, which over here in Utah is a really big WISP on the microwave antennas. Again, very, very good. They can get you a lot faster speeds than 4G. A lot of times their throughput ceilings are a little bit higher, and also their services are a little more expensive. So it's almost your cable to fiber equivalent, your 4G to microwave equivalent. And then if you're not in range of a microwave antenna and you're not getting really solid cell signal, there's of course satellite. And Viasat has been a staple of Telarus forever, as has BroadSky. BroadSky can get you Viasat and HughesNet, and just about any other flavor out there. There are really our satellite aggregator, but Viasat is special in the sense that they put up their own satellites. They're selling services on the products that they own. Viasat is really, really cool. I got to go see the launch of Viasat 2 down in French Guiana with Eric Stark, the channel chief of Viasat, and we had a really, really good time watching that launch. And as you can see on this map of Viasat 2, Viasat 2 is the lighter blue. Viasat 1, that dark blue, that's really where their original coverage area is. Now they can cover literally all of North America and the transatlantic shipping lanes. The problem that we've had with Viasat 2 is that while signal is available in those areas, we didn't have human beings that could go and install satellite dishes on people's houses, or billing entities that could bill people in their native currency. But that just recently changed. Eric and I recently filmed a video we just posted on LinkedIn where Eric announced that they now are offering services through the channel, through us, in Mexico, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. So anywhere in there, again, with the clean line of sight to outer space, you can get up to 100 meg down service. So it's Viasat is really on a mission to blanket the Earth in broadband. The new constellations of satellite coming out are Viasat 3. They'll have 3 birds in that constellation. They'll have satellite, or they'll have Viasat 3-1, 3-2, and 3-3. 3-1 is going to sit directly over basically the same longitude as Texas. So North and South America will be covered. Viasat 2 or 3-2 is going to sit over Africa and Europe, and Viasat 3-3 is going to sit over Asia and the Pacific Ocean. So between the 3 of them, they're literally going to have planet Earth covered, and that's why we've been in business and been such a strategic partner for Viasat the past 7 years now, is because we know that when the Earth is covered in internet with Viasat, they're going to be the one partner that we're going to want to have access to and have a very special relationship. And in the last 7 years, we built up a really nice book of business with them, a really good functional relationship and strategic alignment with their field assets. And we're really excited about the places that Viasat is headed. Now let's talk a little bit about SD-WAN. We talked about the Cadillac Escalade without shocks. We're going to talk a little bit about the SD-WAN providers that we have in our portfolio. Again, very similar to bandwidth. We have people who offer their own stuff, and we have people that aggregate and add value to other people's equipment. The people that we have domestically here in the SD-WAN portfolio, again, Versa, which I just mentioned, one of our brand new suppliers. We have CloudGenix, again, offering their own products, and Ryan Williams and the group over at CloudGenix are out freaking standing people to work with. We love them to death. We have Big Leaf with Eric Brooker and the team over there. They're outstanding to work with. These are just, all of these guys are near and dear to my heart. I can't say enough about them. ESESA, which was really one of our first SD-WAN pure play partners. And then we have Simple WAN that does a really terrific job on smaller, unlimited, all-you-can-eat type SD-WAN deployment. So really good things going on there. Then we have Ariaka, which is, I mean, they're beasts. They do a ton of great stuff, and they have been known for the international SD-WAN, carrier, but Ariaka is making great inroads here domestically as well. Clado, they're beast. I mean, I love Clado. I just talked to their president, Jorge Rodriguez, yesterday on a big deal that we're working on in Mexico City with them. And SD-WAN was a critical component to that network. China Mobile, again, a lot of people, it's not just mobile. China Mobile has a great worldwide SD-WAN presence. Open Systems, when I first met the guys from Open Systems a few weeks ago, I said, hey, what do you want to be known for in the Telarus world? A lot of providers do a lot of things. What do you want to be known for? What's your one thing? And they said, international SD-WAN, that's it. And I said, touche. They're doing a lot of great things. And iXReach has also got a great global SD-WAN presence. So real fast, I'm gonna blow through the key drivers. This is how you design an SD-WAN network. Number one, you need to know what the customer wants to pay. Of course, they don't want to pay anything, but dude, you need shock absorbers on your Escalade. Let's talk about your shock absorbers. And then let's talk about the kind of bandwidth that you want. Do you need dedicated fiber, or can we get away with coax with SD-WAN and make it enterprise grade? Second thing is management complexity. And this isn't the management complexity necessarily of the SD-WAN service. What we're talking about is how capable is your customer of delivering some IT resources themselves. If they have no IT resources to give, the number of SD-WAN providers is going to narrow. If they have their own IT team and they know how to write their own Cisco command line code, their portfolio is going to open wildly. So really, it's kind of like you're selling a car to a person, but it really depends on that versus skill set, right? If they're like a race car driver, you can sell them a Formula One car that has 100 knobs and buttons to push and different settings. Kind of like when you guys go on an airplane and you just take a quick sneak peek to your left and you look at all of those buttons in that cockpit. It takes someone significantly trained to fly that plane. As someone who doesn't know how to fly, you just stick a joystick in front of them and just kind of do a little simulator video game. But there's a big difference. The next is functionality, actually what you need that SD-WAN box to do. The next one is quality, like how many applications are you running that are sensitive to packet loss and jitter. And then lastly, security, buttoning everything up. So I've created a diagram, and what I've done with different people that I work with, I've actually printed this page out. That's called the elements of SD-WAN design. Again, number one, you start with the flavor of broadband. What do you have available at that location is usually the primary driver. It's not necessarily cost, it's availability. So figure out how your customer wants to connect to the internet and what options are available. Number two, the sophistication of your client. Do you need something that you just plug it in and it works? Or does your client, again, have sophisticated command line interface capable developers that can do certain things? If you just want something plug and play, Big Leaf and Simple WAN are your best bets. You don't really have to touch it. You just plug it in and tell them what the IP address is, and it's over. With these two platforms, you call them and say, hey, I need to make a change, and their programmers will get in and make whatever changes you need to make. Then you have basic web interface WAN control. This is where, kind of your intermediate level IT guy can probably pop on a web page and put in some policies, click some buttons, and hit save. Right? It's not super complicated. It's got a web GUI. It's doable. That includes, a lot. This is where the bulk of the providers sit. CloudGenix, Ariaka, VeloCloud, Versa, Barracuda, Meraki, Viptela, Riverbed, ESESA. These guys sit in the area where most folks with an IT manager can do this, but it can also be done on a managed basis. And then again, you've got your super high-end PhD level guys. That's ESESA, Cisco IWAN, and Telarus networks are really the places that play up higher end. And then you have the third thing. What do you need it to do? Is it just a failover? I mean, a failover, you could just add a failover device to a coax circuit for an extra $19 a month? Or do you need like a legitimate failover device that is broadband agnostic? Then you have bonding. So instead of doing active passive, now you're doing active active. Like make both of those broadband circuits that you're purchasing work together and actually balance the load. Then you have traffic shaping. It's not just about sending 50% of the load on one link and 50% of the load on the other. Traffic shaping means actually figuring out the applications that are being used and optimizing the experience for that specific application. Then you have dynamic WAN routing. This is where you're actually going out and seeing what's going on beyond the inside the network. It's kind of, I call this the ways of internet. Dynamic WAN routing is actually looking for traffic jams on the internet and looking for best ways around, especially for your delay sensitive and packet loss sensitive applications, like again, voice and video. Then you have VPN. Maybe an application presents itself to the SD-WAN router and says, here I am, send me. And it's not about sending over the best possible traffic. It's all about security, because this packet has sensitive information in it. We need to set up a VPN in real time and send that back to our company's headquarters still through the public internet, but with a VPN wrapper around it that includes encryption. So it's kind of like, this person is running for president. They need a Secret Service detail. You're not just going to let that guy go on the subway by himself. Like, this guy needs to go in a car. He needs to go with bodyguards, and he needs to go where he needs to go. So that's the VPN element. So it's everything from failover all the way up to VPN, and everything in between is what these SD-WAN boxes can do. And again, for me, the most important thing on there is dynamic WAN routing and error correction coding. Those two things are the things that provide that shock absorber that make best effort internet actually enterprise grade. And then at the end of the day, you have firewall functionality. A year ago, I said, you know what, split the firewall, don't split the firewall. It's all up to the customer if they want to keep their Meraki's or whatever. At this point, 2020, I'm saying, kill that crap. Put it all on one box. Like, you do not need in 2020 to have an SD-WAN and a separate firewall. For many applications that you're using for the SD-WAN, like voice, the voice failovers will have a problem if there's a firewall to SD-WAN handoff. That introduces delay. It also introduces possible point of failure. Now you might as well get all of it in one box. With that, there are a lot of tools and resources we have. If what I just talked about even confused you just even a little bit, for that we have an SD-WAN matrix. On your Telarus partner app and the Telarus back office, you have ways to go in there and actually click on the different elements there on the top, and have the providers that do not offer those services disappear off that very, very, very quickly. And last but not least, the human resources that we have here at Telarus, in addition to the software resources, are first class, world class. I put Kobe Phillips on the slide, not because I reused the slide from last week, even though I may be guilty of that. It's actually because, again, digital edge, where your internet starts and where that cloud handoff starts, it's a blurry line now. And connecting to the cloud isn't just about getting a direct connect to Azure or direct connect into AWS. It's connecting to the different on-ramps and making sure that those on-ramps are the key. And so I put Kobe Phillips in here as well, but also Josh Lupresto, our VP of Sales Engineering, is freaking amazing on network SD-WAN. And he has an amazing team that he's assembled. Scott Glick up in Seattle, Lad Wimmer in Utah, Phil Hanneberg out in Long Island, and Bob Greenow back in North Carolina. They're amazing engineers, but there's one engineer on his team, Josh Hazelhorst, who actually came from an SD-WAN provider to Telarus. Josh Hazelhorst used to be the primary engineer of Simple WAN. And so if there's anything that's kind of PhD level, like where your customer is talking over your head and you're not quite following, please engage Josh Lupresto, and he can get Josh Hazelhorst or any number of his engineers on that call with you. One of the biggest values that this engineering team has provided over the past 5 years has been consulting on SD-WAN and major broadband products or projects. That includes RFPs, that includes just out of the box, double redundant, triple redundant, failover, traffic shaping, VPN, and most importantly, firewall conversations that involve, should we keep our firewall? Should we kill our firewall? What's the transition look like to get into a one-box solution? Our sales engineering team are just absolutely rock stars in that. And last but not least, a little tease for next week, February 11th. I will be joined by the one, the only Dominic Singer, our VP of cybersecurity. There are so many elements of cybersecurity to go over. I took 40 minutes today just talking about all of the new things in network and SD-WAN. Think about how much more we're going to have to talk about next week on the cybersecurity call. From this year to last year, Dominic didn't even work here. So we have so much to go over. Hope you mark your calendars for next week. It's going to be great. With that, I will wrap up my presentation today. Thank you guys so much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure to go over everything network and SD-WAN with you. Again, like I said at the beginning of the call, it was our first foray into this market. It's been a baseline. And again, it continues to be the staple. It continues to be that base of the pyramid on which all the cool things in the cloud are predicated. And it's critical that you get that right for your customer. Doug, thank you so much for the time. I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you for some questions and answers.
Patrick, terrific presentation. I remember when we started doing this a few years ago with the annual supplier reviews and things. We normally did that in just 1 or 2 calls, and now we're into 4 weeks of doing this for this go around, and we're not through yet. It's amazing what's available. A couple of questions that came in. First of all, from Arvin. He wanted to know when and why it is that you would consider using a cable company reseller versus an aggregator. What are the differences? Can they do the same thing?
Typically, if you're dealing with a cable reseller, they're taking the cable price, which in many cases is the same. The wholesale and retail rates are the same. So what they're going to do is they're just going to slap on 10 or 20 bucks of profit on it, and then resell it down the line, really without any changes to the plan itself. The aggregators is really where you get into a point where you have more than one site. You have a whole bunch of them, and you need to get many logos onto one piece of paper. So again, the reseller, it's like you're taking a MediaCom and then passing it off on a different piece of paper just with a simple markup. The aggregators are, and the aggregators typically have a little more control over the network itself. Like their engineers can go in and configure IP addresses and everything else. Just a simple reseller, most of the technical work is really done on the cable provider side.
So Chris is asking regarding SD-WAN, certainly seems to provide better end-to-end availability than traditional WANs. Any reason the SD-WAN vendors are still not generally providing an SLA as you would see on a private IP circuit like MPLS or VPLS?
Well, they don't control the network. What they control is the packets running on the network. And so why they can't, I mean, if someone cuts a fiber connection, there's nothing an SD-WAN can do about that. That's a network provider outage or issue. So what it's doing is it's taking an existing service and enhancing it, but it's not the service itself. So it's kind of like, I can give you a diet and exercise program and make you super healthy, but if you get in a car accident, like I can't help you with that, right? And so that's really the whole flavor of SD-WAN. SD-WAN is there to communicate across the network. It's there to figure out if all of your packets arrive safely, and if not, to retransmit the ones that got lost and to remediate and enhance the service. But again, the actual getting from point A to point B is the responsibility of the network provider.
And that's really one of the upsides and downsides of SD-WAN when we talk about the ability to use lower cost cable and lower cost internet connections and have the SD-WAN clean it up, improve its performance, enhance connectivity and all of that. But with that underlying network, because it is a lower cost type of a connection, you generally don't have the same sorts of SLAs that you would have with a higher end connection. So it's a little bit of a give and take on that, but certainly as an inexpensive way to get on the network and have great performance, SD-WAN can certainly make use of those circuits.
Yes, and there's one vendor that I failed to mention. Zachary, thanks for texting that in on the private text chat line. Dynalink. We signed Dynalink, I believe, in December. In fact, I met Dynalink at the Telarus New York City holiday party, and they also offer both aggregated bandwidth as well as 4G, 5G aggregation. So just a quick shout out to Dynalink. Apologize for that.
Question from John Levi about dedicated fiber providers in the United States. He mentions if Cogent Communications has a lit on-net building, will we be able to see the on-net Cogent quotes for that building, or do you only get to see the off-net quotes?
If he's referring to GeoQuote, I would have to get with Seth. I've only been in this seat for about a month, and so I'm still trying to wrap my head around what is quoting in real time, specifically on-net fiber, because theoretically, if you hit an on-net fiber building, you should just be able to look at a spreadsheet and figure out what your cost is per speed by contract term. Should be really quick and easy. Near net, a lot of companies also have done a lot of research and figured out, hey, if the building's within a certain distance, just go ahead and auto quote that too. So I think both on-net and, I'm not going to say off-net, I'm going to say near-net, but on-net and near-net should be almost instantly quotable with less than a 3-hour turnaround to Telarus. And whether those get into tools or not, I will follow up and get back with you guys on that here shortly. But I would like to include them because for me, if you can quote it now, no sense in, sending in an email and waiting a couple hours.
Question from Bill came in on the Q&A window. It says, if I have a customer who is an MSP who has walked me in the door to help their customer with an SD-WAN design, how do I justify them having to do away with the firewall since part of that sub's device and cost center is providing FE services?
Well, again, whenever you get invited into an account, you always have to be cognizant of who's inviting you and where their swim lane is. If you go into a situation like that, you probably should just worry about the managed SD-WAN and leave the firewall alone so your MSP doesn't kick your butt and never invite you to an appointment again. But when you're talking to customers where the firewall is in play and they're asking you just as a trusted advisor, do you recommend, splitting these apart, doing a Fortinet or, doing a Meraki or something, I would default almost always in favor of one solution. I mean, the SD-WAN providers have come such a long way in security in the last 2 years, I would say. I would feel no hesitance in recommending them combined. But again, if you're there more for political sake and you're working with an MSP that is just heavy in the firewall and has put in a bunch of gear and is getting paid to manage that firewall solution, it's best to play nice. And I mean, again, it's not the end of the world. It's not the optimum solution, but it's not a bad solution either. You're not going to see huge degradation in performance or everything else. But now, if something goes wrong, you've got 2 points of failure. Well, let's go check the SD-WAN. Well, let's go check the firewall. Which one is it? Where if you have one box, you know where to look.
Jason asked a good question, and I'll enhance it just a little bit. He's asking what verticals are hot opportunities for SD-WAN, and let me just add one more thing to that, especially given the current environment that we're in where there is a renewed focus on regulatory issues and on privacy issues. What are some of the verticals that are hot for SD-WAN, and who should we be talking to when we approach the customer about those?
Well, this is the gospel according to Patrick. This is not the gospel according to Telarus or anyone else, but I talk to SD-WAN every time. I mean, it's like you sold a car with no shocks. Who would you ever interest in a car with no shocks? Nobody. If you're using internet, you need SD-WAN, period, plain and simple. And when I say internet, I mean best effort internet. Because if packets get lost or something goes crazy, problems are going to happen. Now, the people that are, again, the most prone, the most susceptible to feeling that bumpiness in the road are people doing voice and video. Voice and video. If they're just doing chat, they might be okay with naked broadband. If they're just doing point of sale, they might be okay with naked broadband. But if they have a video recorder in their shop, if they have anything that anything that touches voice or video, that includes collaboration, screen share, all of that, they're going to have a horrible experience with just regular broadband because regular broadband is cheap, but it's cheap. I mean, it's tough, and then there's also the question of where does VX Suite sit in all this? I've heard some people say, well, I don't need VX Suite because I have SD-WAN. And I'm like, well, you got to understand the difference between SD-WAN and VX Suite. Number one, SD-WAN is an active participant in the flow of data. Active, they're in the stream of data. Again, if an SD-WAN box finds packets that don't arrive, it makes the decision to retransmit those packets and get them to where they're going. VX Suite is an observer, a passive observer, not in the stream of communication. And I just posted on LinkedIn a couple of days ago. I said SD-WAN can correct a lot of issues in your broadband experience, but what it can't fix is when your broadband goes down. When your broadband goes down, you know what your SD-WAN router does? It does what every good SD router does. It diverts traffic to get it to the next best available path. Its job is to get the traffic out to where it's going. That's its job. Its job is not to fix anything. If your Comcast circuit goes down, for example, VX Suite needs to tell the customer you have a down circuit. The second it detects it, it detects it. It puts in pings and trace routes every 60 seconds. So within 4 or 5 failed attempts, within 5 minutes of your customer circuit going down, VX Suite will be able to tell you. And again, this is the free circuit monitoring product that Telarus has that I also failed to mention in my presentation today. If you're not putting free circuit monitoring on your customer circuits, you're doing yourself and the customer a disservice. It's there, it's free. All you have to do is tell your Telarus PSM, I want circuit monitoring on the circuit. Let us know what the IP address is and who you want the alarms to go to, and we'll set it up within 24 hours for you. That
is so true.
That's your indicator that, hey, I need to put a trouble ticket in, because SD-WAN boxes cannot create trouble tickets. They cannot close trouble tickets. They just do the best with what is given to them.
And one more thing on the free circuit monitoring, there's nothing that will make those circuits and that customer more sticky to you, because now you've given them a free service, which is going to let them know anytime there's an outage on that. Nothing is going to make that stickier to you for a value like that. It is absolutely free. By the way, for any of you keeping score, that was officially the lifetime 13th and 14th appearance of the word naked on the Telarus Tuesday call, 11 of those by Patrick Oborn.
Don't go naked.
There you go. Hey, we've talked a little bit during the. That's right. We've talked a little bit today about the tools. We've mentioned the various matrices that we have and the various fiber tool, the cyber tool, the other tools that we have. Talk briefly just about where those tools are located and how partners can most quickly access those, both on the network and on their app.
Yeah, so on the agent back office, that's located at agent.telarus.com. All you have to do is go into a customer record. Inside the customer record and the CRM that you have in that back office, there are areas that are called location records. Each location record has a geoquote text area. There's a D there that stands for data. There's a V there that stands for voice. These are the different elements of geoquote that you can use. Just click on the D underneath the location, the address of the customer. That'll get you to the broadband pricing tool. Next to that, there's a place that says View Maps. Just click on View Maps. It'll pop open a new window, and that's where you see the fiber maps. Also in the back office, if you click on Quote over on the left-hand side in the new nav, you'll actually see the 5 matrices that are there as well. That's where you'll find the international data matrix. That's where you'll also find the SD-WAN matrix. And then on your app, when you download the Telarus app, you just go to the Apple Store or the Android Store, type in the word Telarus, and download the partner app. In there, it unlocks with the same username and password that you use to get into agent.telarus.com. That same password works on both sides. Inside the app, there's an area called matrices, and that's where your UCAS matrix, your CCAS matrix, your cybersecurity matrix, your SD-WAN matrix, and now your international matrix live. And so you can use that on your phone. It works on iPad as well. I would recommend, if you're doing serious research, that you use a laptop or PC. The ones on the phone are, it's a lot of information to consume in a tiny little pane of glass. You can do it, but if you've got time and you've got the availability, pull it up on your laptop, because then you can see the whole universe. and these tools, let me also add this, these tools can be customer facing. On these matrices, there is no Telarus branding. It's just plain. In fact, it used to have Telarus on there. We took it off because we had partners say, hey, I would like to show this matrix, when I'm visiting with my customer, pull out my iPad and, click on some different possibilities, and they can see, the robust tools I have access to without a Telarus logo on it done. So feel free to take these tools and show them to your customers as well. It will definitely add credibility to what you're saying.
So the Telarus Tuesday call today is being recorded. We'll have that available for partners probably later today or tomorrow in the back office. In addition, Patrick, you've been putting out a weekly blog with all of this information, which our partners can access at the Telarus.com website /resources. And going back to the beginning of today's presentation, we talked about that pyramid of cloud transformation, with internet access as being the key or the foundation of that model, SD-WAN being those shock absorbers that you talked about, and then applications riding on top. Quick preview for next week. You're going to be here with Dom Singer, our VP of Business Development for Cybersecurity, talking about that outside layer that protects that whole pyramid in security. Quick preview of what we hear next week.
Yeah, and actually that layer, I probably didn't do it justice on that slide because I really wanted to talk about network today, but that piece of saran wrap is actually 6 different layers once you look at it under a microscope. We're going to talk about the 6 different layers of security. Think about you're in the medieval times and you see the evil horde coming towards your castle. Well, you've got a moat, okay, moat check. All right, you've got people throwing hot oil, okay, check. You've got 3 different concentric walls, so if they pierce your outer or breach your outer perimeter, you fall back to the second 2. That is really the whole. You know, it's kind of fun, like Game of Thrones kind of style, but that's really what cybersecurity is like. It's talking about, you know, what each layer looks like, how much each layer costs, because, I mean, you don't really need to build a Fort Knox of security around, you know, information that doesn't make that big a difference. But if there's information there that makes a huge difference that could create a multi, you know, $100 million business, there absolutely better be, you know, defenses and then defenses behind those defenses and then defenses behind those defenses behind those defenses. And so all of that is going to be talked about. The problem is in today's modern world of warfare, so to speak, is I'm going to show you, I'm going to start the slide off, and this is the scariest slide you'll ever see. I'm going to actually show you a slide that I took a picture of at the Channel Partners UK conference of a list of websites that anybody can go to and download free ransomware in a box kits. Okay, so that means you don't need to be a hacker, you don't need to be a coder. High school kid could go and download the software, and then instantly it starts sniffing the internet for potential victims and figuring out how to breach their perimeters, get inside, encrypt their data. It even has custom email templates that you can use to email your customers and your victims to get them to call a toll-free number. And they do all of this for only 20% of your commissions on all your ransomware pillages and games. So it's a really, really scary area. You couple that with the fact that inside every well-protected network, you have human beings that are fallible, that make mistakes, that click on things they shouldn't. And you're gonna have, just trust me, if you have a garden, you're gonna have weeds in it. Like if you have a business and you're on the internet, you're gonna have problems with cybersecurity. The question now is, what do you do about it? So we're gonna empower you to have these conversations with your customers. We're gonna talk a little bit about the basics so that you can be an expert generalist in cybersecurity and have high-level conversations. And also not to scare your customers into like wanting to talk to Dominic or Telarus, but just having some simple things that they need to be thinking about as business owners, because in 2020, cybersecurity isn't an IT manager's problem, it's the CEO's problem. It's the person who owns the business's problem, because they're liable to either lose their job or have massive financial consequences if everything's not done right. And the great thing is, and the good news in all this is, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. So it's gonna be awesome.
And next week's conversation will show you how to help your clients sleep easier despite all of that. It's going to be a terrific one. Don't miss next week with Patrick and Dom. Thanks, Patrick. Outstanding presentation as always. So much great information. Of course, we run long, but I could do this for hours. This is just tremendous. Our thanks to you and to all of our attendees today for your attendance and participation. Great comments and suggestions. If you have suggestions for our call, you can send those to marketing@telarus.com. Similarly, if your question didn't get answered today, or if you have others that you think about in reading Patrick's blog, send those as well. We'll make sure you get a response on that. Next week, Dom Singer and Patrick Oborn return. We'll be here to talk about security providers and the phenomenal opportunities awaiting you in this market. We will talk with you again next Tuesday. Till then, I'm Doug Miller, the voice of Telarus. For Patrick Oborn and all of us, have a great selling week, everybody. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Thanks again.